Good afternoon. What's going on? This is the Joe Gaither Show on BC Central. You guys are checking us out, listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or on Amazon. Make sure you check us out each and every week at Boston College on SI. You can check us out with our friend Kim Rankin at KMRankin1 on the Twitter machine. We're going to have a lot of fun as Kim Rankin had a very busy weekend. I know a lot of you guys are enjoying your summers, going to the beach, going to vacations, doing all kinds of things with your family. But Kim Rankin is building a website, and Boston College had plenty of things to build with this weekend. Kim, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing good. Like you said, it was a really busy weekend. I don't know who decides to put two drafts back to back, but I want to have some words with that person. But other than that, I'm doing good. Chilling from the week, excited for the 4th of July here, a holiday week here in a couple days. But yeah, I'm doing great. It's a little too hot for my liking outside though.
Absolutely.
I'm hating this 100-degree weather. I need it to go down a little bit.
I had an AC problem last month, and I got it fixed. No big deal. But now with the temperatures being so high, I keep wondering, is it really fixed? And I see, okay, it's fixed. It's just dealing with the 100 degrees each and every day.
Yes, it's brutal.
Oh, my gosh. And really, you hit on two drafts back-to-back. That's a new phenomenon for myself because really it's the NBA draft and then it's turn everything off, but not in the Boston College world. You guys had 4 different players drafted across 2 different drafts, 1 in the NBA, 3 in the NHL. So let's talk about those guys, and then we'll hit on a recruiting win for Bill O'Brien. Does that sound like a decent plan for the day?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so the obvious draft was the NBA draft. That went over Wednesday and Thursday.
Yes.
Wednesday night, you had a great first round, and nothing really happened on the Boston College side of things. But on Tuesday afternoon, and really the second round went so under my radar that I only saw these things on social media. But on Tuesday afternoon, Boston College center Quentin Post was selected 52nd overall by the Golden State Warriors. So great. He goes to a great organization, a great franchise, even though they did just lose Klay Thompson. Still a pretty nice little club. What's the drama? There was a lot of drama around this draft pick. And what's the fit going to be like for Quentin Post out there in San Francisco?
Yeah, so like you said, Quentin Post got selected as the number 52 overall pick. For any maybe SEC fans listening to this, that name might sound a little familiar for you if you're a big college basketball person. And that's because Quentin Post actually started his career at Mississippi State. He spent 2 seasons with the Bulldogs and ended up transferring to Boston College after his sophomore year, and then spent 3 seasons with Boston College where he finished off. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting pick. A lot of confusion when he got drafted on who kind of owned the rights to that draft pick. The Warriors had it originally, and they ended up trading it to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So a lot of people thought even though Golden State was picking it, he was going to the Thunder. But then the Thunder tried to trade it to Portland, the Portland Trail Blazers. So then a lot of people thought he was going to Portland. And then shortly before the pick, Golden State bought it back for cash. So he did end up going to Golden State after all of that. But yeah, I think it's a good pick. I mean, Boston College isn't known to get, these massive good deals, but Quentin Post is a great player. I think if I remember correctly, last season he averaged 17 points per game. I think 8.8 rebounds and 2.9 assists off the top of my head. That stat line very similar to that. So he was really good for Boston College. He was a player that consistently got better the older he got. His numbers got better year after year in college. He's 7 foot, so he is an absolute monster in the paint. I think it's a good pick. And, with the NBA, especially with the loss of Klay Thompson, which came after the draft, I definitely think he could absolutely, get into the big leagues here soon.
All right, so Quentin Post joins the last Boston College basketball player to be drafted out there in Golden State. Jerome Robinson, drafted in 2018. Robinson is with the Warriors on a 2-way contract right now. So a little bit of momentum for the Boston College program on the basketball front.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's so funny that like the last two draft picks for Boston College are now going to be teammates. As far as I've seen, I don't think Post has done his contract yet. I know they had a little like photo date this morning. It looks like he's going to be wearing the number 21 for Golden State. He'll probably go on a two-way contract. I assume kind of similar if he hasn't signed one yet. I haven't seen anything just yet. But I assume he'll be, most second rounders do that. They either go straight to the G League or do a two-way. So I assume he'll do something like that similar. But I think he'll be on a two-way. But yeah, after just a little bit of development, I really think he could be one to actually make it in the league and possibly, make it with Golden State and kind of help Golden State to a little bit of success, even with Golden State kind of going through this transition phase, I guess, for lack of a better word, that they've kind of gone through over the last couple of years, kind of losing that like core that they had a couple of years back.
All right, so I'm looking on Google right now and just kind of reading through Quentin Post, and golly, God bless you, Kim. So confusing. You've got Quentin Post 4 days ago under the Oklahoma City Thunder. You've got Quentin Post in a swap with the Mavericks. You've got Quentin Post in a swap with the with the Warriors. And so, yeah, how difficult was it just to keep up with? Because I talked about this on the Joe Gaither show on Spurs Central with Matt Guzman, just talking about the number 8 pick with Rob Dillingham and how that got moved from San Antonio to Minnesota and how that was not very clear in the television broadcast. Just how difficult was it to follow all the pick swaps? And do you think that hurts the NBA?
Yeah, I don't think it really hurts the NBA because I feel like every sport does it. I mean, you look at the NFL draft, they're moving picks, they're moving the rights to people too. Might not be as like consistent as maybe the NBA because they have 7 rounds versus the NBA's like 2 rounds and 60 picks versus 7 rounds and 250 picks. But it happens in every draft. Yeah, that one was really confusing. It's very hard, especially as someone who's like got to get the story out and do, stuff like that. I took it as when it happened, no matter, where he was going, my kind of approach to it was that Golden State still technically selected him regardless of like where he was going after that. So I kind of made it as Golden State selected them. And then I kind of added a little like disclaimer that said, there's a lot of confusion surrounding this. Like I will update everything when it is confirmed, like, where everything's going. But yeah, I don't think it's bad for the NBA. I think it's just, it's something they're allowed to do. It's stuff that's been going on for years, but I do feel like the ESPN and the league and the draft need to make it easier to follow along. I know when I was like trying to figure out when, Post like trying to confirm that like he was staying with Golden State, I even looked on the NBA website and they were even like, well, it's been reported. Like they're like, we don't know where he's going yet either. Like they put like all the reports on, well, he was reportedly traded here and then there and then there and then Golden State finally picked it back up. But yeah, I don't think it's bad. I just feel like they need to do a better job of, kind of announcing it and kind of keeping track of who's trading, what pick is going where. And even if it's like, if Golden State didn't have that pick, let's say Oklahoma kept it, saying something like Golden State's picking, but this pick will be going to Oklahoma, just something like that when they're introducing it, maybe just to make it a little more easier to follow. Cause I feel like it's really hard to follow if you don't really know, like, especially for people who maybe aren't like big on the NBA or like huge on basketball. And they're just kind of watching to see like where their like, favorite college player might be going. But I just think they need to do a better job of that.
Yes, exactly. Cause I'm most familiar with the NFL draft. And it seems like whenever there's a trade, Roger Goodell or whoever's announcing the pick basically said, we have a trade. The New England Patriots are trading for the 53rd overall pick, and they're taking John Smith. I feel like they make it pretty easy to digest. And I don't know. I don't know that the NBA does that quite as well. So you got through Quentin Post's draft pick. And congratulations for Boston College having a player selected in the NBA draft. But then you turned over Friday, Saturday? You have the NHL draft, and this is kind of a interesting concept because it's like the baseball draft a little bit. You're drafting players a little bit before their college time. Let's talk about the first guy. Let's talk about our first round pick. Boston College sees Dean. Oh, help me. Latorno. Thank you. Latorno sees Dean Latorno drafted in the first round to the Boston Bruins. So great. He's staying home, hometown guy, 25th overall pick. Let's just talk about conceptually first. How does the NHL draft work, and then how does it apply to Dean Latorno?
Yeah, so the NHL draft is a little different than I think most of them, and I think what makes like most drafts in most sports so special is all of them have these little things that just kind of make them special to their sport. But for the NHL draft, it's technically called the NHL entry draft, and you can only like be eligible if you have a certain birthday. I don't remember the month for this one off the top of my head. I think it was like February 2004 to like maybe March 2006. So like you had to be born in a certain like time range to like be eligible. And usually the top couple picks will, go straight to the NHL. They'll bypass college or skip college. But then once you get kind of to the end of the first and then like everything through are most guys who still go to college. What you do is you get drafted by an NHL team and you still go to college, and that's kind of where you develop rather than having like a G League like the NBA or having to play 2 to 3 years for the NFL or, 3-4 different minor league teams for major league. But yeah, college is basically where you develop. So most of these guys still play in college, even though they get selected. And then when they get done with college, they go straight to that, NHL team that selected them in the draft. So it's definitely interesting. Dean Latorno sounds like he's going to be in Boston College his freshman year. I know he's first rounder, but he talked yesterday to the media, talked about like how he was excited for his freshman year. All three of these guys actually are incoming freshmen. None of them have actually played a game at Boston College just yet. All very newly 17, 18. But yeah, he talked about how he was excited for his freshman year with them. And yeah, it should be a good choice. And I mean, Boston College is one of the best hockey programs in the country. They went to the Frozen Four last year and just fell shy of a national championship to Denver. But I mean, you couldn't ask to be developed in a better program.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm pulling up Boston College history in hockey, and my gosh, you go,
Yes.
what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 national championships. Your last one was in 2012. You've been to the Frozen Four too many times for me to count. Let's see, since 2010, 12, 14, 16, and 24. So that's 5 times in the last 15 years. Pretty impressive stuff. So, Kim, you're going to have to brush up on your hockey and maybe make that the focus of Boston College on SI.
Yeah, obviously I'm working my hardest to get that hockey knowledge up. I did intern my senior year with the Alabama club hockey team. No, it's a little different than, a D1 hockey program, but I do have that little bit of knowledge there. So I'm going back to my roots from my senior year of college. But yeah, they are one of the best, probably arguably the best dynasty in like college hockey right now. So yeah, that is probably one of the best places to develop for if you want to like do good. And they have probably more people in the NHL than I can count right now that had gone to Boston College and are currently playing. 2 of them won the Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers. So yeah, it's definitely one of the best places to develop for any prospect who gets picked.
All right, the next guy is someone I'll keep my eye on because he was drafted by the Nashville Predators. Teddy Stiga, drafted in the second round, a 55th overall pick. Sudbury, Massachusetts native, also an incoming freshman. So how difficult is it to get to know these guys or get information on these players who are not yet in college? And what do you know about Teddy Stiga?
Yeah, so it gets to be difficult depending on kind of how their development was like growing up. I know every sport kind of has that one website people latch onto. Like I know Major League Baseball, a lot of times if you're looking for high school prospects, you use Perfect Game, things like that. There's a website called Elite Prospects that I've been using to kind of learn about these guys. Absolutely phenomenal site. Like I said, every sport has that one. Teddy Stiga, like you said, local guy from Sudbury, Massachusetts, so not that far. He's been played 2 years on the U.S. national development team. He also played on the U.S. under-18 team. So he is very impressive. He had a very, very impressive campaign with the national team last year, which is probably why his draft stock got as high as it did. I know, he was one of those guys who they were thinking maybe might get drafted kind of mid to late. And then he had an incredible season with them and then ended up talking about possibly second, maybe even late first round pick in a lot of projections, ended up being one of the first couple players drafted in the second round. So yeah, He's definitely one to watch. He's also, one who's going to develop really well at Boston College, especially being a local guy. But yeah, he had a great campaign with the national team and should be really, really good. And he's also competing. He's one of 6 players who's competing in the summer showcase that's coming up here at the end of the month in Michigan.
All right, so continue my hockey education. Teddy Stiga, Dean Natorno, and now we're going to talk about Will Skahan. How long do they stay in college? Because, okay, I've been drafted. I have a good freshman year, maybe, likely, hopeful for these three guys. I have a good freshman year. Is it one and done like an NBA guy, and they already know what professional franchise they're going to be joining, or are they in it? Are they at Boston College for the 3 to 5 years where they're completing their academic requirements?
Yeah, I think it really just depends. I think it depends on, how good they not only they are in college, but kind of the needs for the professional team. Like if your professional team is kind of stocked and you might not be getting, a lot of minutes, it might just be more beneficial to kind of stay in, especially in this day and age of NIL. I think it might just be more beneficial to kind of do what you can, like while you can. And yeah, so I think it's just a mix. I think it just kind of depends each year on the team. I know there is one guy, Gabe Peralt, who plays for Boston College, he's with the Rangers, and he just announced that he is returning for his sophomore season. That was very questionable. Ryan Leonard is another guy who we're kind of waiting on to hear if he's going to return or not. So it really just kind of depends on, again, it's a mix of how good they are, and I think how much, your professional team really needs you, how much they might lose, how much time you might get there. So I think it's a good mix of just kind of figuring it out before you decide if you're going to stay. But you could stay 1 year, you could stay 4 years. It really just depends.
All right. Well, with that as the backdrop, Will Skahan gets drafted by the Utah Hockey Club, which is an expansion team. So maybe he won't be in Boston College very long. What do we know about Will Skahan and his selection to the newest NHL franchise?
Yeah, he is. He's also one of those guys who played, under 18 team development team. Very, very good. Yeah, I with an expansion team, I do expect him to not really, possibly be at Boston College very long. Because they're looking for everyone. But yeah, I think that was a really good pick. He was also one of those guys where it was like he might be going, kind of mid-round, and then he ended up, getting picked in the second. I think he was the last pick in the second round, the very last pick. But yeah, I think he, his draft stock improved last year too during, his high school year. So I think all of these are very good wins for not only Boston College and these prospects that got drafted, but also for the professional teams that picked them up, especially for an expansion team that is looking for, whatever they can get. I mean, get a Boston College guy team that has the program that has this massive dynasty. That's who you'd want to build your team around, or people from these big teams. So yeah, I think they were wins for all the professional teams, Preds, Bruins, and Utah. And I think it was really good for all of these, incoming freshmen to kind of go ahead and know where they're going to land after, their time in Chestnut Hill comes to a close, whether that's 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, just depends.
All right. Well, we will be brushing up on our hockey knowledge here. I will have to do so for my end, and that's awesome. And I know you will be as you're growing BC Central, Boston College on SI. Make sure you follow Kim Rankin at KM Rankin1 for all of her great coverage. She's written a lot this weekend about different news and notes around Boston College. Lots of commitments, lots of transactions happening. Also, Laney Blevins committing for volleyball. You've got a new soccer schedule for the women's soccer team. But lastly, let's talk about Denzel Williams. Denzel Williams is a 3-star offensive lineman committing to Boston College. We talked a lot about Boston College football last week on the program. Another good win for Bill O'Brien, and their recruiting momentum has been pretty good this summer. What's Boston College? What are the Eagles getting in Denzel Williams?
Yeah, so Denzel Williams, 3-star offensive lineman out of White Plains, New York. He was the commit number 20 for the class of 2025. He was down to Boston College and Pittsburgh and ended up choosing Boston College over Pitt. I think he's really good. I mean, obviously, Boston College, I think their offensive line is something they really need to work on. They, if you kind of look at Thomas Castellanos and his stats last year, he had to run more than he could pass. His passing stats weren't really great. So I think offensive line is one of the biggest things like they truly need to work on. And I think they've got a good guy out of that. That was I want to say their second offensive line commit for the class of 2025, joining Robert Smith. So far, all 20 of them are 3-stars. They haven't landed a 4-star prospect. Every commit is either 3-star. I think 18 of them are 3 stars and 2 of them haven't received their like actual ranking from 24/7 yet. But they're doing a great job. Like I said, second offensive lineman. I think he'll be very beneficial to Boston College's success here in 2025. And it's another big win for Bill O'Brien, who has been very, very hot and very good on the recruiting trail so far this summer.
All right. Well, we will keep checking out Boston College and BC Central, Boston College on SI. You've got a big month ahead. I know it's still July, but it's the last month without football. What are you going to be thinking about for ACC Media Days, July 22nd through 25th? So you still got a couple weeks, but what's going to be your thought process on how to handle that Wednesday, July 24th, Boston College Day at ACC Media Days?
Yeah, I think the big thing is I'm just really excited to kind of hear from Bill O'Brien. I know we heard from him when he first got, announced as the next head coach. He had his press conference. You kind of heard from him during the spring practice. But with, college, like with the season getting closer, I feel like it's really important to just kind of hear from him, kind of what he's thinking. He's had enough time at this point to learn about the players and the game plan and kind of, what he wants to do for them this season, which I feel like you don't have very much of in April when you just got hired in January. You're still learning everything. You're still learning, the area, the guys, the field, everything. So I'm really excited to just kind of hear from him and kind of see what he's got in store, what, he's excited for, and just to kind of hear where his mindset is going into the season, which is really just about 2 months away. I think Boston College's first game is 2 months from today. So I'm just excited to kind of hear from him and kind of see, what his game plan is going in as a first-year head coach and a coach that hasn't really, been in college as a head coach since 2013.
All right. 4th of July week coming up. What's your go-to 4th of July food?
Oh, I really love like ribs and hot dogs. I feel like you can't go wrong with either one of those. Any type of barbecue. I don't have a Southern accent, but like I am very Southern at heart. That is, give me barbecue, all of that all day. But yeah, I love deviled eggs. That's a good one too. But yeah, any type of barbecue, ribs, pulled pork, whatever, I'm down.
All right, you made me hungry, so we got to get out of here and go find something to eat. Keep all of your fingers when you're doing the fireworks this week, because we need you to continue writing for BC Central and Boston College on SI. Make sure you follow Kim Rankin at KMRankin1 on the Twitter machine. Thanks so much for your time, Kim. We'll catch up with you next week.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I hope everyone has a happy 4th, and I'll talk to you all next week.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for this little week's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on BC Central. We appreciate everybody who watched us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. Boston College making lots of moves in the recruiting trail and trying to get ready for Bill O'Brien's first football season. I got to brush up on my hockey knowledge because college hockey never really been on my radar, but we're going to get it on my radar this year as we are getting all involved with BC Central. We appreciate everybody watching us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and we will catch you next week on the Joe Gaither Show on BC Central.